Alright, designers, welcome to your coursework video for this week. The start of this video, I'm going to go ahead and kind of combine the demo with the slides in this video for the week. And in order to do that, I have to start with the document camera on, so that's why you get such a weird angle as the opener for today, even though it's really going to go over the slides. But let me talk about some things with the material that we are going to use this week in 2D design, or 3D design 2. Yeah, let me go ahead and discuss that. This week we are in the final, like I said, introducing the final for the subtractive carving unit that we've been working on for a couple weeks. And what we are transitioning to using this week is the floral foam bricks. Okay, I'm trying to pull one of the clean, unused ones out. This floral foam brick is going to be what you use. There's also another type that's similar to this. This one is dry foam, or you can use wet foam this week. Here, let me open that up too. This one right here, these two dark green, very powdery surface bricks are what you're going to be sort of free to use this week for carving. These, I think the green one is a number 8 brick. The light green one is a number 8 brick. The dark green one is a number 9 brick. The number 9 is slightly larger. Kind of hard to tell in this limited view. But yes, you are going to carve these into one of the designs. Well, and I say it needs to be kind of based off of what you learned from the designs you practiced last week in your first subtractive carving. You did 2 of those most likely, and you're going to basically pick your favorite from the 2 that you finished last week. But I say it's just based off what you learned, because if you need to make some tweaks or kind of go back to original designs to think like, oh yeah, okay, I did that one, I turned it sideways, now it's really boring. Like what can I do, to change it? You can basically address the designs you did last week and change them up a little bit if you would like to. But in any case, yes, you're going to carve those out of one of these 2 materials here. And like I said, I'm starting with the demo, so I should move to that. The one thing I want to really reiterate for you is not to use, like I said, this is dry foam, this is wet foam, but this one right here is called Florafoam. Okay, do not use Florafoam. Okay, they're all floral foam, but Florafoam is a little bit more densely, actually, I guess it's less dense, but it's like a harder plastic that it's made of, and it will not carve right. You can already see the dust and stuff that's like coming off of the dry and wet foam bricks. This is a piece of the Florafoam that I've already been kind of working with, and you'll see in a minute. I'll show you how, well, and I guess I can show you right now. When you carve the dry foam or the wet foam, you can really sort of like shape it with your hand, and you can cut it very smoothly to get like nice soft edges, and then you can round those edges out to get really good surfaces. But with the Florafoam, when you try to do this, if you try to just use your finger to carve, first off, you really won't be able to very much, because it's just too hard. And then even when you cut, it just doesn't cut cleanly. You have to pry or break. Sometimes you end up with these big, like, kind of open tears, or like kind of gunky, like junked up carvings. So it's just really essential that you don't use Florafoam. Also, I don't think it comes in the right size brick. I would like you to keep the size of the brick in mind. The dry and wet brick, wet foam bricks, they actually come in a variety, especially the dry foam. It comes in a variety of shapes and sizes, but you need to make sure that it is at least as big as this original number 8 brick. Basically, what I always say is that at least one side of your carving needs to be at least 6 inches long, which then, if you include a base, that pretty much is at least one brick of the number 8 or number 9 size. But in any case, yeah, just going over the merits of, you can see the fluorofoam, it just doesn't work as well. It's ugly. It's this like dense foam. It doesn't get as powdery. And that said, speaking of the powder, it is rather nasty to work with the dry or wet foam. These are some pieces that I've been kind of carving before this, but just to kind of go over the tendencies for how they carve, I think dry foam, I don't know, it feels a little safer to work with. It's a little sturdier. You can still get a lot of detail out of it. It's got kind of a sandy texture. It's gritty, which is kind of not fun actually, but one of the downsides of the really soft, like super nice velvety texture of the wet foam is actually when it gets it where you kind of can't even see it because it's so powdery, and that makes me worry. Last night when I was doing a practice one, I had like green boogers by the time I was done because this powder just gets everywhere. So I don't know. It's just something to think about. This is maybe a little, it's like cleaner, but also just, it's lighter, but it gets everywhere. That's the wet foam. The dry foam is like sandier, so it's easier to keep track of, but it's also kind of gross feeling. I don't know. You just gotta have to play with it. But you can see here, I'm just carving this with a pencil. You saw me a minute ago carve it with a palette knife, which is just a dull putty knife. You don't need any kind of sharp, super sharp tool to do any of the cutting or carving. Yeah, you can use just about any carving tool. If you got the carving tools for the soap and wax, you can use those. Yeah, and you don't have to be real aggressive with them. It tears, it cuts fairly easy. Remember, when you approach carving, you're going to just focus on one side first, and then carve that away, then move to the back, then move to the side. So you kind of focus on that, and this material makes it really easy to do that. You can just sort of cut around any drawing that you make very smoothly, just get rid of the excess. Yeah, either one, they're fairly easy to carve and work with, but also it's worth noting the wet foam is not quite as sturdy, so you have to be more careful not to break it. Also, just like the least little dent, honestly, like paper is like, you could use a piece of paper to cut this right in half. The dry foam's a little bit sturdier. I've used a lot more of the dry foam, but there's just like a nice softness to the wet foam. I don't know. Another thing is actually too that worth noting, I think you can kind of sand with your hand a little better on the dry foam. It kind of works. I don't know. You still have to be careful not to crunch it. You don't want to be like pinching it and breaking it, because then a lot of times you don't even know it, and you're actually just kind of compacting it. And then you go to paint or carve another section, and a whole chunk breaks off because you've actually compacted the fibers down. Wet foam is even worse for that. I would not, unless you're very light-handed, I would generally not recommend carving with your hand here. You see, this is one where if I keep pushing like this whole surface is getting compacted, and I'm going to go to brush or paint it, and that whole chunk's going to break off. I don't know. You can use your hands to just sort of sand, but I would be hesitant to do it on the darker wet foam brick. It's more conducive to dry foam if you're just sanding away with your hand. But in any case, you should carve and cut away the majority of your shape until you get to the final details. And then, the last thing I did want to talk about, another thing that's handy, like I said, you can use your fingers. You can use a knife, a dull knife. You can use carving tools, whatever, or you can even use a bamboo skewer, because I know you have a bunch of those. But you also, kind of for the finishing touch on a lot of this, it's good to get out a dry, kind of soft bristle paintbrush, and you can just sand or get off the excess dust that you've been moving around. And you can do this with the wet or the dry. Just make sure that the brush itself is dry. And see, this is another thing. You couldn't soften edges on that fluorofoam like this. But in any case, yeah, I think I'm like beating to death how to carve this, but I know you guys saw the demo last week of how to approach carving itself. I'm just talking about some of the nuances of this particular material. It's going to work the same. Carve the front, carve the back, move around it, then do the side, then the details. But yeah, just be aware it's a much softer material, and you're working with bigger blocks. I recommend get like the big pack, you know, that comes with like several bricks, because you're probably going to want to go through several of them, and it's only a couple dollars more. It's $5.99 for 6 bricks of the dry foam. But in any case, you just really want to, I don't know, be ready to have some extras and work through some different ideas. And also, if you want like an extra brick for your base. And then, yeah, last thing before I turn off the document camera and go to slides, which should have a little more straightforward discussion involved, it's just noting how dusty this is. Okay, I do recommend face mask. Okay, a dust mask at the very least. Yeah, it just turns into this gross powder that floats, gets in your clothes, then you go, and especially if you're carving on your like dining room table, you're going to end up with little gritty green sand in your cornflakes in the morning. Nobody eats cornflakes. Captain Crunch, I guess. But yes, you're going to, yeah, just be really conscious of that. Pay attention to the dust and where it's getting. Never blow on your piece. Use the paintbrush to dust things off. If you're going to blow on it, make it at the very end and go outside. Blow it away from you into the wind. Oh, and last couple things before I turn off the camera, actually, is just to, it is worth noting, this is good for, you know, it shows it in the slides, but if you are at any point going to you attach a base, or if something breaks while you're carving, it is good to know that there's always an option, see, I can't even really separate this, to attach separated pieces of the foam together. So inside of this, there's a broken toothpick that I actually kind of snapped in half and then stuck into this piece that I was attaching. You'll see pictures in a second. And then I put a little glue where it was going to attach, and I just pressed. Basically, the toothpick acted like a little stent here. I'll show you how the toothpick looks, or works here. So, and I'll use a bamboo skewer just because, again, you guys are familiar with that. Essentially, anytime you need to attach two separate pieces, this is how I do it. I go ahead and I will take a little piece. I kind of tend to leave the pointed end sticking out of whichever is the smaller of the two objects I'm attaching. One thing to note, like I said, if you're just attaching a base after you've already finished your sculpture, it doesn't really matter, you know, this decision, because you're already done. I would say you should paint your base and you should paint your sculpture and then you should attach them. But overall, something you need to ask yourself, if like an arm of your piece breaks off or something and you need to reattach it, ask yourself, do you want to finish carving that arm and then attach it? Or do you want to go ahead and attach it, let it dry, and then try to carve? Okay, it's worth noting because, you know, you're going to need, with this, you can't just use the toothpicks, you need your Elmer's glue. But that Elmer's glue is going to dry and be harder than the foam. So you're going to just think about, you're going to have like a little seam or ripple there that's going to be hard to cut evenly with the foam. You'll see what I'm talking about if you get to it. But in any case, think about, do you want to carve first, then attach, or attach the pieces together and then finish carving them so they look synonymous. Just think about it. But in any case, imagine basically I had some Elmer's glue. I forgot to bring it over here. But essentially, you want to just stick the skewer in line with whatever you're going to work. Make sure that it's not too long. You know, I'm going to jab out the other side of something. Make sure that it's not too dull and going to just like shoot back out this way. If you notice, like I said, I put the dull side into here, into the small piece that I'm attaching, and it ought to make it easier to kind of jab it into the larger piece. But in any case, imagine, you know, I'm going to cover all of this in glue, and then you might even cover some of this area in Elmer's glue, and then you're just going to push them together, boom, and attach, right? And then the glue, you make sure the glue is spread and squeezes, and you get all that kind of attached, right? That is a good way to attach things, like I said, if they break or at the end when you're attaching a base. It's just worth noting. Okay, and then the other thing, just before, again, that I turn off the document camera, I keep throwing out teasers, is I did want to show you the white paint coated version. Your sculpture at the end, as you'll see in the slides, needs to be painted. So be ready to do a nice solid primer coat. There's photos of this in the slideshow. Don't forget to do the bottom. Ooh, I need to put that in the slides. do not forget to do the bottom of your piece. You don't want to leave this exposed green foam. You may not really have to go in and finish the bottom completely with your colors that you're going to put, but don't leave it blank green foam, because it's going to be too delicate and then potentially come apart. But this has 2 coats of white house paint. You could use black house paint, I guess, if you want. White is like a nice base coat, but I guess, yeah, black would be a totally fine base coat. But overall, the big reason that we do this is that so that it kind of fills in the pores with like one solid coat, makes it easier for you to see, so that when you paint your colors, you're just going to have a better kind of view of things. I'm trying to see. I inserted some holes into this design. But in any case, yeah, 2 coats. Oh, and the other thing is it just makes it so much stronger. That's why I keep tapping it. So you realize once you put this coat on and you're ready to do your final coat, you'll see it's much stronger from the base coat. But in any case, let's get to the slides. I think that's enough demo for now. Kind of rambling on there. But let's go ahead, turn this off. Oh, hopefully it doesn't stop recording. Ooh, okay. I think we're good now. Hopefully, I'll have to review and make sure that we made the switch off of the document camera. But hello. Hopefully that demo wasn't too complex. Like I said, I just wanted to show you some nuances of the material and give you a quick close-up view of some of the things that are going to be expected through this week. But the big thing I want you to check out now are the slides. So let me go ahead and share that. Sorry, I should have had these pulled up. Okay. Sorry. Share. Okay, so this week we are going over this final. Starting the slides, there it is. Okay, so this is Major Project Unit 3 Final, the carving final. A nice mouthful name here. Designed to, it's the expressive, subtractive, non-objective sculpture carved from green flower foam. Woo-hoo! Yeah, there's a brick of it with, kind of a carving based out of it. Good times. So, I've already said all this, so I'll try to say it fast. You are going to carve a final non-objective piece. You are basically basing it off of one of the 2 designs that you practiced with last week, although, as it says in the second bullet point, it can be tweaked or changed based on what you've learned so far. So you can incorporate ideas from earlier in the sketch or clay modeling phase, or you can just kind of stick to the design one of the designs you've been practicing with. Like you did a sketch, then you did clay models, pick your 2 favorite clay models, now pick your 1 favorite soap or wax model to do in the flower foam, but tweak it as needed. Like I added the holes through on mine to sort of give some more interesting negative space. But in any case, yes, it's going to be done with dry foam or wet foam. I've already showed you why. Wet foam is just a really nice, soft, delicate material. Dry foam's a little sandier and tougher. But Fluorofoam just stinks. It's the worst. Do not use Fluorofoam. Okay, I do recommend using, like I said, number 8 or number 9 brick, typical brick shape, but you can use different shapes as long as they are larger than the number 8 or number 9 brick, which is 8 inches by 3 inches, basically. As long as you have one side that is over 6 inches and then the rest of it's just not flat, then you're good to go. Okay? Cool. So just talking about some of the nuances of the material, I already showed you this up close in the camera, but just so that it's in the slides too. Do not use Fluorofoam. It's clumpy. It does not carve right. It does not cut. It sort of flakes, and you'll get big pockets of air in there because it's just like basically aerated plastic. It does not paint well either. It's awful to paint. So yeah, you don't want to use it. You can't carve it or get it smooth. So don't use Fluorofoam. The merits of dry foam are that it has a nice sandy texture. It's very easy to carve. You can get it pretty smooth. It is fairly sturdy unless you get it really, really thin, and you can sand it with your hand. Although I recommend carving as much as possible with a carving tool, a pencil, a dull knife, or a bamboo skewer, and then smooth it out with a hand or a dry brush near the end. You can sand this one easier, like I said before, but you don't want to overdo it. Okay. Now that leads us to wet foam, which is super soft and can create just awesome details and textures. It just can be super, super cool, but it is more delicate than the dry foam. It has a less messy dust cloud. I say that, it's just, I don't know, it's like easier to see and it's lighter, but I'm actually starting to learn. It may be getting around. It might not be that easy to see. I feel like I'm breathing it in to some point, but just, I don't know, it's still really nasty. So still consider the dust, but it's a little softer dust. Be careful when sanding and shaping it with your fingertips with this one. This is the one I'm saying. You can softly shape it with your fingertips, but overall, you don't want to get super aggressive because you might crunch it and compact that foam rather than carve it. And then you won't know, you'll start painting and then your paintbrush will brush over this area that you compacted and a big chunk of your foam will just pop out. Kind of like you're seeing in the kind of finger mark here where it's like rolled up and you just can't tell, but there's just a big clump of sand waiting to fall out. But in any case, it's best to just carve this as much as possible with carving tools, skewers, pencils, or a dull knife. Again, sand only minimally with the hand, or honestly, if you use a hard enough brush, you can do all the sanding and softening with the brush. But you can see both of them here in this picture. You can see how much softer the wet foam is, but the dry foam is pretty soft too. Okay, so all that leads us to making sure that I say again, be safe and be aware of the dust. The green dust is gross, and I'm sure it is not very good for you. I think I have a good pocket of the green foam dust down in the bottom of my lungs from carving this stuff all the time in college. It's super nice and luscious, but yeah, I don't know. Be careful with the dust. If at all possible, wear a face mask. This is not like a masker type of thing at all. This is pure safety. I should have been doing it back when I was in college. It's much better for you to wear a mask, especially during cleanup. It can just be a dust mask. You know, a respirator's great if you have it. If you have asthma or something, you need to talk to me. We need to find an alternative because I really don't think this is going to be very good with asthma. Or you just really seriously wear a mask. Be super, super careful. Think about working outside as long as it's not windy. If it's windy, it might blow it up in your face. Just be careful. And then whatever you do, do not blow on the piece while you are working. Maybe at the end, if you take it outside, stand upwind, blow it away from you, and then the wind carries it off. You can do that. But yeah, and then even while you're doing that, don't take any deep breaths when the dust is like going everywhere. Just kind of be careful. I mean, I think it's overall really safe. I'm just trying to make it sound not safe so that you will pay attention. But yeah, in any case, yeah, you can carve it. Just like last time, carve one side or one angle at a time. Do an orthographic kind of view of one side and then just start carving away all the negative space like you see here, right? Finish down to a silhouette of that front view, the full silhouette, like you're seeing all the way through the project, okay? And then, except for the holes. I did add the holes at the end. But yeah, so finish the silhouette, then do the back, then approach the sides, then the details. I guess the details would be like the holes, the extra ridges that I put on mine, that kind of stuff. Review the carving demo from last week if you need to. The demo over carving soap, it breaks down all of the steps. But I have more stuff to get to, so let's talk about the expectations. Number one, be non-objective. We've already said this many, many times, but it's super important. It needs to be just elements and principles present. Line, shape, form, texture, those kind of things. Do not think about don't make it look like anything else. It shouldn't look like a flower, shouldn't like a hand or an animal or anything. It needs to look like nothing except itself, right? Be totally non-objective. Review past slides if you don't know what I'm saying. Expectation number two, be interesting. with the positive and negative space. Think about leaving cool archways or gaps between appendages. You know, you'll see this one on the right. It doesn't actually totally close. It's not a hole, right? They actually carved it, so it's just a gap, but it is very interesting. It's almost a complete hole through the piece. This one, both of these two on the left do have holes all the way through. Unfinished loops, finished loops, just anything that leaves interesting negative space and positive space, you know, around appendages and forms. Okay. Expectation number 3, it must have a base. This is a new expectation, so pay attention. If you can either leave a part of the brick untouched to carve the base after. I don't know why this is why I preview this in this video so I can catch my typos. Either leave a part of the brick untouched and carve it as the base, not in the base, as the base after, or you can carve a base from a second block and attach them later. Refer back to the earlier video of me kind of showing you how to attach these. But yeah, you can attach a base. The one on the left is carved from, you know, one block. Okay, so the base is actually part of the original block. This is one solid piece. It's actually super cool. And it's cut all the way through. It has a gap. All one solid block at the start. And then 2, this one on the right, I know this is not non-objective. This is just one of the projects that I have of my work that I did back in college using floral foam, flower foam. This is dry foam, and it has this cool block of dry foam that I kind of beat up and then attached as a base. It has an attached base. This is back from when I was your guys' age, when I was an undergrad. But yeah, you can see the level of detail that you can get in carving and painting and finishing. There's also some metal attached here just for some interesting side notes. But yes, I know that's not objective. I just wanted to flex a little. Boom. Okay, expectation number, oh wait, no. Before that, I already talked about this though. It is nice to know that you can attach after or during carving. It will be helpful sometimes to attach separate blocks if you have a break or if you want to attach the base. And then just remember, like the carving last week, talking about the soap or the wax, use a toothpick, use a piece of a bamboo skewer as like a little stint, insert it up into the piece that you're attaching to the larger piece, and then put glue in this case. Last time with the soap and wax, we didn't use any glue, but for this, I want you to put some Elmer's glue, spread it around on the attachment, and then where it's also like going to go, and then press really good so it squeezes out, and then yeah, try to smooth it so it doesn't squeeze out too much. Also think about, like I said before, glue dries harder than the foam, so decide if you want to carve it, then attach, or attach and then carve. Definitely do this whole attached thing. Don't just glue a base on. I want you to make sure if you're doing an attached base that you have one of these stints with toothpick or bamboo skewer. Cool? Okay, expectation number 4, the last one, is that it must be painted in color. This is a whole new expectation too. Do this in full color. This is why I'm giving you the extra time that I am. You have quite a bit of time to carve this considering how fast the foam itself carves. But you need at least 2 colors in addition to the black and white. Okay, so in addition, yeah, to the black or white undercoat that you're going to do. And also you can have white. Obviously this person here has white and black mixed in with their colors, but they have 2 colors besides the black and white. I don't want you to think that you can't use black and white. This person on the top didn't use any black and white, but there's multiple other colors. But still use black and white if you want. Just focus on bringing in at least 2 other colors. Think colorful colors, not just neutrals or browns. Still be non-objective. You know, don't now all of a sudden paint flowers on it. I have no problem with flowers. I keep bringing it up as a not to do, but that's just a common thing I see. But before you do any of your 2 colors, coat with the 1 color coat of black or white paint first. Now, I say 1 color coat, but you're actually going to put multiple coats on. So do at least 2 coats of whatever your base is, whether it's white paint or black paint. You can see mine here. This was yesterday, 1 coat. This is today, my 2nd coat. Okay, this is another reason I have to give you more time. Also, don't procrastinate because you have to let these layers of paint dry. And it takes a long time because it's foam, okay? Don't dawdle. Don't plan on painting it the day that we're turning it in, okay? Don't. House paint is kind of a nice thing to use here. That's what I used. It's really nice and sturdy, and you don't have to put on as many coats. I only had to do the 2, but it also takes longer to dry. Craft paint will dry faster, but you need to put on maybe like 3 or 4 coats. Okay, but just note this one on the left, that is not quite enough coverage. You want it to look more like the one on the right before you approach it with full color, which you already saw in this video. I haven't colored mine yet, but also notice my example here is carved with the base. In any case, yes, the base coat does 2 things. The biggest thing is that you don't waste your color coats. You're trying real hard to mix these colors or find colors to use, and you're spreading them. And then if you're trying to paint it straight on dry foam, it's just going to soak it up, and you're going to run out of color. It's not going to look very good. You're going to have to keep doing extra coats, and it's just way easier to see your form and then not waste paint on those coats if you do the white base coat. The extra layers of paint will also add a lot of strength. Already talked about that. Be sure to pay attention not to chip away pieces or be careful finding crunched pieces. And just be careful painting. It is soft, like I said. Don't break it. Okay, now super quick. I know this is exhausting, but I got to go over some color schemes, and I'm going to rush through them. There's this YouTube video, just FYI, is a cool video on color schemes and some ideas. It's from the KQ Ed series of Elements videos, but yeah, go check it out if you want. But I'm just going to talk about it for a second, talk about the color wheel. The colors I want you to use, I really want you to consider the color wheel. You can use browns and neutrals, but really think about this. Real fast, just to be sure I cover it. Primary colors, red, yellow, blue. They're primary because you can't mix them. They are the original colors. Probably means that's what our receptors are in our eyes, right? And then secondary colors are mixtures of those two. So that's when multiple receptors of our eyes are going off, like the blue receptor and the yellow receptor are going off. We get green, okay? The blue and the red, we get purple. The red and the yellow, we get orange. So green, orange, and purple are secondary colors. Those are mixtures of primaries, okay? Tertiaries are mixtures of primaries with the next secondary. So if you mix red with orange, you get red-orange. If you mix blue with green, you get blue-green, okay? And that's tertiary, third level, helps me remember it, tertiary. Sometimes they're called intermediate colors. But in any case, yeah, that's a mixture. And notice the browns are not on the color wheel. You get browns by mixing colors that are not adjacent to each other. So honestly, complementary colors like blue and orange, red and green, yellow and purple, when you mix those, that's how you get browns. Okay? Real quick, oh yeah, Isaac Newton did invent the color wheel. Fun fact, there's the video again. Right, and it's the same as the color spectrum, which you saw on the last slide. It's white light when it's all together, and then when you separate them, it does all the colors. Black is, of course, no light. And we're talking about colors like they're light. If you get into cyan, magenta, all that sort of stuff, that's printed colors, that's pigment. It's a whole different conversation. I'm talking about color as a function of our eyeballs, which means it's just talking about light, which means all the colors together make white. All the colors, no light means black. Okay, properties of color. The hue of a color is the name, or basically where it is on the color wheel. So blue is a hue, teal is a hue. Now it's not on the color wheel, but it's a type of blue-green, that is in one of the small pockets of a color wheel. But the hue is basically the name of the color on the color wheel. It's the same color all the way through: red, orange, yellow, orange, all those things. Now, those are all hues, but you can change how light or dark a color is without changing the hue. So if you take red and you add black to it, you get a shade of red, which is a darker red because black is added to it. If you add white to a red, you get a tint, which is a lighter version of red. But it's all the same hue, red, just different values, okay? And value just means light and dark. If you haven't heard that term before, it's the shadows and highlights and brightness or darkness. Now, intensity or saturation is basically how pure a color is. You can think of that like hot pink, pastel pink, bright purple versus pastel purple, stuff like that. Okay, those are properties. Now, real quick, color schemes, speed round. Achromatic, no color, without color. Atypical means not typical. Achroma means no color. Chroma means color. In any case, achromatic, black, white, and gray. Sometimes browns are included in this. I like to separate them into their own category of neutral. But black, white, and gray are achromatic, which is not what you're going to be doing. Monochromatic is where you use the same hue, but you change the values of it. You vary the value, so it's light blue, dark blue, regular blue. Okay, you vary the values. You can create shapes using just one color with different values. Polychromatic means multiple colors. You know, anytime you got two or more, that's really what we're doing, although I'm providing you with other color schemes along the way. Analogous means colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Warm or cool colors is another way to see that. You know, we have yellow, orange, red. Just so you know, too, though, like green, you know, analogous colors are yellow and blue. So that's not totally just cool or warm colors. But in any case, yeah, if the colors are next to each other, that's warm or cool. Colors across from each other are called complementary colors. It's often used for festive purposes like Christmas or football teams. This is orange and blue for the sports team here, the Grizzlies. It's a high school I used to work at. And of course, Christmas, of course, is famously red and green. The third set of most common complementary colors are, of course, yellow and purple. So you got LA Lakers, other teams. But in any case, yeah, they're generally festive because complementary colors have the most contrast. When you mix them, you get brown. But if you set bright versions of them next to each other, there's a big difference between them. It actually is like aggressive and will kind of hurt your eyes when you set them next to each other. But so that I kind of tend to think that's why we use it for more active purposes. Okay, triadic means it forms a triangle on the color wheel. It's just another way of saying like primary or secondary because those color schemes form a triangle. But I guess you could do these with tertiary too. But basically, if the three colors you're using make a triangle on the color wheel, it's triadic. Lastly, grays and browns fall into neutral. Sometimes an earthy green, if it's not like a green on the color wheel, would be under neutral. Remember, neutrals can fall under achromatic. But like in general, I like to kind of keep them separate. But grays, browns, earthy greens are neutrals. This slide's probably not worth including. Palette means, you know, you literally used to mean a wooden board, and then artists started spreading their paints that they're going to use for that day on the wooden board that they're going to take with them. So sometimes artists, you know, the range of colors that you're going to use is called a palette, and it goes back to this root word. Okay. I'm going really fast, guys. So the due dates, though, are in a week and a half now, 2 weeks-ish. It is due Monday, 4/18. I guess that's 12 days, about 2 weeks. You're going to post at least 2 angles and a video of your piece by midnight on Monday, 4/18. Okay, so I'll make this an assignment, hopefully before the day it's due. I don't know what it is about this class. I keep forgetting to post the assignments. But yes, post the 2 pictures and a video by Monday, 4/18 at midnight. Okay, finished painting. I'm talking about done all the way through, completed, painted, everything. Also, don't forget to paint the bottom. I know you can't see it in the pictures, but paint it. Okay, it's just it'll be stronger. It'll look better. The following day, 4/19, we will have another critique. Just like the last discussion post, you'll post a video on the discussion the night you complete it. So the night that you finish the assignment, 4/18, after you post it there, I want you to right away go over, post your video in your discussion by the end of the day on Monday, so that then by the end of the day on Tuesday, everyone can go in, see everyone else's projects, and then post comments on to other projects. To other students' projects. Okay, just like last time. There will also be another reflection, which is like that quiz that'll pop up, and you just basically tell me how you felt about the project. Don't forget to do those. It's a small thing, but I want you to do that so that you personally reflect on how it went. I'll review all this, the right column stuff, the critiquing, again next week. But yeah, that is it. Due date, everything. Let me reiterate, and I'll put it into the slides when I post this, but you need it finished, it carved, painted by Monday, 4/18. Okay, let me stop the sharing. I hope you guys, got something out of that, and it wasn't too long. But let me know if you have any questions. Review this stuff. I'll post it. I'll post the slides. I'll post this video, and then with my corrections. But yeah, send me any questions you have, and get to work. I'll touch base again next week, making sure that you know about the turn-in, finish painting, all that stuff. Get started now, though, because you can always have something break or come apart halfway through. You don't want to dawdle, and it'll take you longer to paint than it will to carve. Okay? Y'all have a good one, and I will talk to you again next week.